In the 1990s, comics once again experienced a resurgence. They were suddenly the hot thing to collect, and there was a lot of speculation. People going out and buying comics in bulk because they thought they would be an investment. And then the speculator bubble burst, and comics went quiet again. And then when the 2000s rolled around, after 25 years of development, Sam Raimi put out the first Spider-Man movie. And it sold a ridiculous number of tickets.
Yes, it did.
And suddenly, the popular culture was interested again in what comics had to say. And from there, it's actually sort of built. Comics have not gone quiet again. Hollywood in particular has found a way to capitalize on the success of Spider-Man and built it forward.
Excellent.
And that's gone backwards into comics as well. Has it caused problems here and there? Sure. It's made for some very bad comics, very bad graphic novels. But it has kept comics and graphic novels primary in our popular culture. And it's kept interest level high. The other thing that has done that, of course, is this. Manga. The reason why is where, for many years, the public perception of who read comics was a 15-year-old boy with no friends except for a few other 15-year-old boys with bad hygiene.
You know what I think of? Who I think of immediately, it pops to mind is the comic book guy from The Simpsons.
Yes.
That's probably a stereotype that doesn't exactly ring true to the world of comics.
It rings...
It's somewhat true, I don't know.
It rings less true now than it did probably a decade ago.
Okay.
But when The Simpsons first rolled out that character, there was a lot of shifting and shuffling back and forth between geeks going, well, isn't that nice? But what happened is that somebody figured out that you cannot limit yourself in your market.
Right.
And a little bit over half the population doesn't happen to be boys. And,
fancy that.
Yeah. Companies, particularly companies like Viz and Tokyo Pop and others, ramped up their production of importing manga and manhwa, which is the Korean version, and brought in stories and books that appealed to teenage girls, adolescent girls. They have money. They like going to the library. They like reading. It just seemed to make good sense. And at that point, this exploded. It became huge. Now, did it also work for young boys? Absolutely. Dragon Ball, Naruto, things that are also helped by Cartoon Network shows, again, going back to the popular culture mix, very successful. And I've been to a number of libraries, and I always see a very healthy supply in a public library of manga.
When I was a school librarian, which was from 2000 to 2005, when I started, we had no manga, and so I started to build a collection, because that was about the time that it started getting a little bit more accepted, I think, to have in a school library. We had some battles around those types of books in our libraries before, but I do remember that I could not keep the manga on the shelves. I would have to replace them. They would get stolen. They would, walk away, or they would be dog-eared. They absolutely, hands down, the most used section of my library was the manga and comic section.
Well, I think their general appeal rolls around to one genre, because they cover every genre. I've read manga westerns. My favorite one is about orchestral students, action adventure, science fiction. There is something in manga for everybody. Vampires, that works, for both sides of the equation, especially in 2010 with the Twilight fandom going on.
Right.
The other thing about manga that really works is this book right here, cover price $12, 200 pages of story. This book, cover price $20, about 128 pages of story. This book fits in a purse. It fits in a back pocket, and it fits in a budget, and that gathers the younger reader's interest. And that's one of the reasons that they become so popular. They're cost effective and they have a larger chunk of story.
Just like the rise of paperbacks and what is that, penny novels or penny romances?
Penny Dreadfuls.
Penny Dreadfuls,
Yeah.
thank you, in the earlier part of the 1900s. Okay, let's switch gears. I know you go to Comic-Con like every year.
I do.
And so tell me a little bit about your involvement in Comic-Con, how long you've been going, and what in the world is happening with Comic-Con, because now it seems like every single celebrity who's promoting anything anywhere is at Comic-Con, and I want to know what that's about. What's the relationship between pop culture, mass media, Comic-Con, and all of that?
Money.
Money, okay.
It always comes down to money. Always. Nerds have money. Nerds are technologically savvy, nerds and geeks. They're always at the forefront of any advancing technology. There will always be two segments of the population that advance any form of technology: pornographers and geeks.
There you go.
Sometimes they're the same people. But if you have a movie coming out that might have some sort of genre feel to it, movies are a big business these days in that the average movie costs over $70 million to make, and another $30 to $35 million to advertise. When you're making a movie like a superhero movie, like an Iron Man or an Iron Man 2, I believe Iron Man 2 costs close to $200 million.
Wow.
You need to have people there in those opening weekends. Studios make more money off of tickets the opening weekends in theaters. They make less money as a movie plays. They need that opening weekend box office to get the most money for their dollar. They do it by going out to their audience, priming the pump, if you will, getting them interested, getting them excited, getting them using Twitter, getting them using Facebook, on message boards, whatever they do to spread the word and talk about the product and get people into seats.
Word of mouth and buzz.
Yes, and it's the same for television. Many television shows go to Comic-Con. Last year, Glee did a presentation at Comic-Con. And, of course, the audience for Glee is made up of many real-life people who could have found themselves in that club and on that show. And they began spreading word of mouth. They'd only shown one episode in the spring, but the show is coming back in the fall, and they created an appetite for it. It'll be back in a much bigger room at this year's Comic-Con.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So Comic-Con started out pretty small, I understand.
It was on one floor of a hotel in mid-San Diego, and then it spread a few years later to the San Diego Convention Center. And the San Diego Convention Center expanded. And at this point, it has 52 rows in a building that's almost half a mile long. 52 rows of material. All of those rows are 100 yards long.
Wow.
There are also two major halls, or three major halls, that are viewing theaters for these Hollywood presentations. One holds 6,500 people, one holds 5,000, and I believe another holds 3,500. So they bring people in and they create excitement in this massive pop culture meetup. It's no longer just about comics at Comic-Con, but they still find their way.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can walk the floor and find plenty of amazing, amazing comics and graphic novels.
And so if you want to go to Comic-Con, you really got to get your ducks in a row early, right? Because it's sold out. It sells out, doesn't it?
It's sold out of 4-day passes at least 6 or 7 months ahead of Comic-Con this year.
Unbelievable.
Single-day passes were gone by mid-March.
Wow.
125,000 people attend every year. This will be my 11th consecutive one, my 12th overall.
Excellent. You going to keep that streak going?
Probably for a little while longer. Every year I start thinking to myself, wow, I'm really tired and I'm getting too old for this.
You probably need to wear comfortable shoes.
Comfortable shoes are a must. 1 year I did not wear comfortable shoes, and I came away with some very bad injuries.
Yeah, I bet.
You walk an average of about 6 miles a day.
Unbelievable.
And that's an average. So every year before Comic-Con, about 2 weeks ahead of time, I buy a new pair of shoes.
Break them in.
Break them in.
Break them in.
And they're good and comfortable and still supportive.
Very good. Yeah. All right, so that's a conference tip. And, you know, librarians go to conferences, too. And ALA is our big flagship conference. It's not quite as big as Comic-Con, but the Midwinter meeting, which has about 15,000 people attending,